set you free, forever free. We won't let you down, and this is our promise to you. Nobody could ever take this promise away, and we will not budge one step back.
No, 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 no. Come on now. Amazonian, that's what we are. Amazon, help me Amazonian, we are yours. Nothing can compare to the loving that we share. All your pain and sorrow will make you strong tomorrow. Got to get together and make this world better. So sing this song with me and set your mind and body free.
But you know, this really comes down to you and me. You have to join our pledge and play your part. It's my part and your part to make it.
Join our pledge.
You and me will set it free,
You and me.
because freedom is the word. Don't let them lie to you. There's nothing else but freedom. Freedom is our right, and in that right is our liberty.
Amazonian, come on, help me sing. Amazon, that's what we love you. Amazonian, whoa, Amazon, we are yours. Amazonian, lift your face, Amazon, hold your head up, Amazonian, that's what we.
Today is Thursday, February 13, 2026. We are very pleased, we are very delighted to speak to our people today. I haven't been online for some time now to address issues, educate, empower, and provide leadership and a sense of direction for our people. So I'm honored, and it's a great privilege to have this conversation today. 2 days ago, Cameroon once again attempted to showcase its falsehood in Ambazonia. But the spirit of the Ambazonian people, the determination of the Ambazonian people, once and for all, the colonial day called 11th February, the plebiscite day, has lost its significance, its value, its meaning, and its substance. Cameroon has abused the day and has turned that day to become a day of national shame for the people of Cameroon, and to try to use it as a day of mockery for the Ambazonian people. But the wise, the brave, the courageous, and the intelligent people of Ambazonia, through a strategic visionary leadership, have redefined not only history, but the future itself. 11 February lockdown was not a protest. It was a nationwide withdrawal of consent. Governance without consent is not governance. its occupation. The disciplined non-cooperation, where large parts of Ambazonian territory observed a coordinated shutdown of public life. Public event occurred only where participation was coerced, incentivized, and imported. Cameroon maintains presence only by the use of force, not by public consent. This signals a de facto collapse of legitimate civil authority in Ambazonia. The self-determination of the Ambazonian people is a protected right under international law. Civilians expressing political rejection through non-cooperation is lawful, peaceful, and civic action. What we witness fits the definition of prolonged coercive control rather than legitimate governance. Western policy should be grounded in the reality on the ground, not by stage optics. What we have seen across the Ambazonian territory on 11 February, where nursery school kids have to be bribed, where parents have to be paid, where elementary schools, secondary schools, trade institutions, the head of these institutions have to be bribed, they have to be paid, they have to be threatened. How is that nationalism? And how is that a support of a system? Where on earth have people been bribed for them to go celebrate a day that is purported to be a national day? Where on earth are teachers and civil servants threatened to participate in a national holiday? Where? What we are witnessing in Ambazonia is the end of a system that has not only collapsed, but has lost absolute legitimacy because the Ambazonian people have withdrawn their consent. The Ambazonian War of independence, of liberation and freedom, the quest for human dignity, the quest for human survival, the quest for freedom and for a better quality of life for the Ambazonian people. Through that collective aspiration, we put in place a collective policy for collective defiance, for collective withdrawal of consent, to demonstrate not only to Cameroon, but to the international community that 11 February no longer holds the meaning for which it was intended in 1961. Based on Cameroon's occupation, annexation, and repression on the Ambazonian people. Based on Cameroon's attitude, based on Cameroon's behavior. The strategy we've put in place has not only crumbled the occupation system, but has also crumbled the tyrannical system itself. The Ambazonian people must reclaim their right to self-determination, statehood, freedom, and independence. As we move forward, the Ambazonia Governing Council, the leadership of the liberation, in consultation with the Ambazonian forces, is bringing together consequential movements, legitimate Ambazonian political leaders, trusted and genuine Ambazonian civil society movements to consolidate and strengthen our united front, and to start the process of building institutions for self-governance. There are a few challenges ahead. And these challenges, most of them, they stems from within. Most of the problems the liberation is facing is not because Cameroon is too sophisticated. It's not because Cameroon has some people that provide strategic solutions, or there are certain people within Cameroon that are creating a lot of some of the natural problems we are facing. The problems within the Ambazonian liberation struggle are artificially created by people that were specifically recruited to do these things for the Ambazonian people. It is not my nature as an expert, as a leader, to come out and get into these petty politics. But it's also very important the Ambazonian people have a critical understanding of the psychological games that are being played on them using recruited Ambazonian leaders. Cameroon's strategy from day number one, from 2016, Cameroon's main strategy has been to make sure the Ambazonian people do not have a credible, a trusted, and a charismatic leader that the people will believe in, they will trust, and they will follow. That is strategy number one of Cameroon. That's why when the Ambazonian people in 2016 entrusted the consortium with the leadership to negotiate with Cameroon, they arrested that leadership in order to create conditions for decapitation. In 2017, when Siseko Ayoktabe Julius, Pa Tassan or Tassan Wilfred, and all other Ambazonian leaders came together, created SCACUF as a united front for the Ambazonian people, Cameroon quickly recruited its own agents and injected them into SCACUF to make sure the Ambazonian people do not have a united front. And that's why those that were recruited and injected, they have to hijack the united front with bad advice and created conditions that divided the Ambazonian people, including dividing Siseko Ayoktabe's IG. These things are artificial construct by Cameroon. But most Ambazonians do not have this deep psychological understanding on how these things are done on a people in such a struggle for freedom. There is a book I've recommended all Ambazonian leaders to read. Most don't care They don't want the understanding. They don't want to understand the thinking system of the occupier. It's called 54 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Most of the strategies Cameroon is using against Ambazonians are in that book. They came from that book. The recruitment of people like Capo Daniel, the recruitment of using people like Chris Anu. All of those strategies came from that book, the 54 Laws of Power. And I encourage anyone who has interest in persuasion and influence and propaganda, go read the 54 Laws of Power. You will understand why Cameroon arrested Bala Fontaine and Justice Ayapol in 2016. You will understand why they went after Sise Kwayok Tabe Julius in 2018. You will understand why they recruited more than 1,000 people to be on social media just to fight Dr. Cho Lucas Ayaba alone. You will understand after reading that book or listening to the audio of that book why they had to create the Blue and White Army to go after the ADF. You will understand why they recruited Sikot and created the network in Momo to engineer infighting. You will understand why they had to engineer infighting in Fako. You will understand why they killed Amigo. You will understand why they engineered the slaughtering of 39 ADF fighters using Sako and Chris Anu in Bui. These are all the psychological games Cameroon is using against the Ambazonian people. Using Ambazonians. So don't sit and you think like these things are coming from thin air. These are all psychological games. From 2018 right up until now, Chris Anu is in the Ambazonian struggle to play the psychological games on behalf of Cameroon. That's how he makes a living. He has a role. Most of you don't care. So why they are destroying your liberation struggle, you think you call it infighting. It's not infighting. It's a psychological game orchestrated, engineered, sponsored, and paid by the occupier. You don't even know that. So I'm going to break some of these things for you. First, let's start with Agbobala. From 2016 to 2017, the creation of the consortium, Bala was not supposed to be the president of the consortium. It was supposed to be Mr. Harmony Bogba. But the Cameroon government quickly realized Mr. Bogba or Bobga has a strong character. He really believed in doing the right thing for the Ambazonian people and to make sure the Anglo-Saxon system of the education and law is reinstituted in Ambazonia. So they pushed him aside and sent Bala to the front. Psychological manipulation. That's how Bala became the president of the consortium. And what did they do? because Cameroon operate based on intelligence, which means they study a person's character and values, behavior, and they realize that you're prone to corruption. You want something they have. So they are going to use you. So they'll put you in a key position in order to use you to influence their policy. So they took over the consortium, took Bala Fontaine and Justice Aya Paul. God bless his soul. Bala accepted a deal with Cameroon, never to accept independence, never to talk about independence or freedom, never to support separation, never to support self-determination of the Ambazonian people. He made his deal. They released him, gave him his passport. What did they do with Justice Aya Paul? Took his passport, closed his bank account, blocked his pension, blocked him from traveling. They closed even the accounts of his NGO. So, on one hand, they cut a deal with Bala. They gave Bala passport, integrated Bala within the system, gave Bala money, and connected Bala to all other international NGOs for Bala to start to speak about the conflict. While they restricted Justice Aya Paul from talking, restricted him from having access to even medical care, blocked his bank account, blocked his pension. So ask yourself, why were two people were arrested? One, a Supreme Court justice, is denied access to even medical care. Bank accounts frozen and blocked. Passport seized. On the other hand, the other person called Agbobala released, passport handed back to him, bank accounts, extra money, ability to travel, connected him to conferences for him to become the spokesperson of the conflict, that there are two sides that are committing atrocities. And the justice of the Supreme Court, who has documented all atrocities committed by Cameroon, and the number of persons, the number of kids, the number of women, the number of girls that were raped, was placed under house arrest after spending 9 months or 8 months in detention. I hope now most of you start to understand the psychological games that Cameroon had been playing from 2016, 2017, 2018. Once they had Bala and Fontaine, consortium was finished. Bala and Fontaine signed conditional release with the Cameroon state through Mr. Muna, the lawyer Akire Muna. The liberation moved to the diaspora through Patasan Wilfred, who refused Cameroon bribery of 400 million CFA. They offered Tassan 400 million. Tassan refused. For Tassan to call off the school boycott. Tassan refused. So they chased him until Tassan had to escape to Nigeria, while Bala was in jail for a few months. And once he was released, it became a key influence of the colonial state against the Ambazonian people. Early 2018, Siseko Ayoktabe Julius and 10 other Ambazonian leaders of the IG group were kidnapped in Nigeria. Why? Consortium decapitated. Siseko IG decapitated. Why would the Cameroon government pay $50 million to the corrupt leaders of Nigeria's Secret Intelligence Services called DSS. If Siseko and the IG at the time were not a threat to the occupation system, why would they pay $50 million? And immediately they were picked up in Nigeria after the transaction and sent back to Cameroon. Who did the Cameroon government brought in to replace Siseko and Patassa and Milan at the time? Who did they brought in? An unknown person called Samuel Sako. Another unknown individual that was just doing some WhatsApp audios called Cameroon Journal, called Chris Anu. They brought them in and introduced them as the new leaders. People that have had no role whatsoever. This is where the problems Ambazonians are facing right up until this point started. These are the psychological games. This is not something that is just for the Ambazonian liberation struggle. This is how all occupiers across the globe, including in Israel, this is the game they play. Hamas is a nationalist movement. They will create 15 other movements and then they fund them through the Qataris to oppose Hamas, to fight each other. So it's not new. But if you don't have this background and wealth of knowledge and education and intelligence, then you think it's very peculiar and unique to the Ambazonian situation. It's not. This is the game occupier play in order for them to survive. Why? Because the Ambazonian territory, it's a wealthy territory. The people are wealthy. There is a lot of money. We're talking of trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. They want the wealth. They want your future. They want your destiny. They want your prosperity. They want you. So they are after the wealth. That's why they have to recruit thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands to make sure they push the Ambazonian people left and right, center, backward, forward, up, down, and cause all sort of chaos so that you trust no one, so that your liberation will not have a sense of direction, will not have a credible leadership you will trust. This is the game. So I'm not here to have conversation to blame people. I'm here to have a raw conversation with you so that you make the right choices and you stop supporting people that are out to destroy your future. They are playing a psychological game on behalf of the occupier without you knowing. So let's start with Bala. 2018, 2016, consortium decapitated. By early 2018, the interim government of Siseko Ayoktabe Julius, now called IGK, decapitated because Siseko had become a very influential, consequential leader with the audacity to challenge the colonial state in terms of redeclaration of restoration of independence. That's a consequential act that challenged Cameroon's legitimacy in Ambazonia. So they had to pay $50 million to make sure they rip up the leadership and render that institution leaderless. And once the institution there is a vacuum, they will take that vacuum and fill it with their own recruited puppets that are going to play the game on behalf of Cameroon. Don't believe what I'm saying? Go read 54 Laws of Power. Bala came out of prison. The Cameroon government sent him out on special mission. The mission to play the game of moral equivalence, which means Bala will go out and said, hey, yes, it's true. The Cameroon military had committed atrocities. They burned down villages, mass displacement, extrajudicial killings. But, you see, separatist fighters have also committed crimes. So Bala was out there singing this song of moral equivalence. That was his goal. That was a job being paid by the Cameroon state. That's part of the conditional release. That's part of the agreement. This is the song you must go out and sing. Because the international community, including the United States, were enacting laws, sanctions to go after the hierarchy of the Cameroon military and the political hierarchy. The European Union was doing the same. So they had to send Bala in the field to play this balanced game in which to alter the narrative in the international community. So while Bala was doing this, Chris Anu was out here going after Dr. Cho Lucas Ayaba on a daily basis. It was all about Ayaba is a power monger, Ayaba is a power monger, Ayaba is a warlord. These were all scripts that were created by the Cameroon military intelligence, passed over to Chris Anu. It's a game. They put them there. That is why the Cameroon government brought in Eric Tato from Cameroon. Sarkozy know how to play the game. Chris Anu doesn't really have the charisma. So they needed someone to help them. So they brought in Eric Tato. Chris Anu is singing the fight against Ayaba, the fight against the ADF, the fight against the AGOFC, and then they brought in Eric Tato to reinforce. Then they brought in the SICOT. They recruited about 1,000 people to start to create the narrative that the ADF, the AGOFC, is La République. Whereas the people that are La République have to now point fingers to nationalists. Why? Because nationalists will deliver independence and freedom to the Ambazonian people. So the goal is, how do we muddy the water? How do we make sure Ambazonian people don't trust this nationalist movement? Because the ADF had become very popular. Ivo had elevated the ADF to become a national force on the ground. Ivo controlled most of the territory. Most forces on the ground were ADF trained. Cameroon didn't like that. So they had to make sure they create mistrust within forces on the ground to make sure that forces that were even ADF, as long as they start to hear this narrative and the story that Dr. Ayaba and the ADF are proxies of the Cameroon state, that will create confusion and mistrust. The Ambazonia Governing Council, Dr. Cho Lucas Ayaba, and all ADF officials will now spend most of their valuable time, instead of focusing on the ground, they will now start to defend themselves. No, they will not have to justify. No, we are not La République du Cameroun. This is the whole game. So that leaders do not have time to focus on substance. They'll focus on minor issues. They'll focus on these public debates where you go out, you accuse them, they are La République, they are proxies of Cameroon. Dr. Ayaba works for Cameroon. Dr. Ayaba is under Atanganji payroll. The whole organization now has no other choice than to focus on trying to redeem the image of the organization. And therefore, they won't have much time to focus on the ground, on the liberation, on the forces, on the population, in taking care of refugees, and in taking care of prisoners. This is the game. This is the psychological game. So that's why from 2018 to 2019, 2020, 2021, that was why there was so much tension. There was so much tension within the Ambazonia political space. These are all instruments of the occupier. These are all intelligence operatives of the Cameroon state. This is how the game is played. For those who don't understand the game, they'll fall for the game. And then now they will blame each other. Ambazonians will now blame each other. And then they'll blame Dr. Cho. And then they'll blame Siseko. And then the perpetrators of these acts, those that are responsible in engineering, in propagating the hate, will gain popularity. That's why Chris Anu was out there on a daily basis, was shouting, 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 shouting. It was a game. They did that until it led to the death of the finest Ambazonia Defense Forces fighters. Until this day, Cristiano is still out here. He's still out here talking. This is a man who committed war crimes. Killing 39 Ambazonia fighters. Most of them, their weapons were seized because they thought they were dealing with their brothers. General Efa said, no. Don't use your weapons. Come on. These are our brothers in Bui. We're here to visit them. They didn't know that they have received counter instructions. So they dropped their weapons. They collected weapons worth more than $100,000. What did they do with those weapons? According to Samuel Sako, there's a video out there in which they asked Sako, okay, Sako, all of the weapons collected from General Efang and the 39 ADF fighters, where are the weapons? Sako openly said they should go ask Cameroon military because they have surrendered. Sako and the Bui warriors have surrendered the weapons to Cameroon military. It's out there. 4 years later, 5 years.
Fighters that were arrested, had they alive or dead? The truth is that a report was issued by the county government of La Republic. A report was issued.
No. Rewind it, please. Rewind it again, please. A report was issued by who? By the county government of La Republic. Listen again, Ambazonians.
We are doing. Fighters that were arrested, had they alive or dead? The truth is that a report was issued by the county government of La Republic. A report was issued, and it is out there. And after looking into the whole issue, the government's spokesperson, Secretary Chris Anu, also went out and narrated gave the report to the people as it was. That was it was public knowledge, and so I don't even want to go there. Secretary Chris is here. He can just tell you again what is said. Maybe with this number of people here present, you might remember exactly that he said so, and that is exactly what it is. It does not change. If they are alive, maybe La Republic knows whether they are alive or they are dead.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Sako and Chris Anu gave instructions to Chacha when Efan went to visit the ADF forces in Bui. And they had to pass through territories that were controlled by Chacha. Efan had informed Chacha days in advance, and Chacha had called Chris Anu to tell them that he had given, he had a conversation with Efan, and there is clearance for these forces to come through. So Efan was going through that passage with confidence that he had spoken with his brother, not knowing that they had received a counter instructions. Now, Chacha and the Bui warriors, the ADF, put down their weapons. They said, we're not going to fight our brothers. They arrested them. When they asked Sako about those fighters, what did Sako say? Bui warriors arrested those forces. Sako is saying they should go ask La Republic forces what happened to the 39 ADF fighters. That's quite telling, isn't it? So I have more important things to do than for me to come out and be engaging in these conversations. There's so much on my plate. There's so much that is at stake. Normally, I don't even like to come out and talk about these things. But there is a vacuum of understanding within the Ambazonian liberation struggle. And until we have these conversations, until leaders have these conversations, we're not going to be able to heal the wounds that will be able to help the Ambazonian people to forge a true national united front without addressing some of these issues. It's very difficult to bring people in, try to forge unity, move forward, when you know that they are entangled in so many places and being influenced by many directions, including the colonial state. That's why I'm bringing these things up, because it's very critical at this moment. Here is what you need to know. Chris Anu is under FBI investigations. Over the last 2 years, the Federal Bureau of Investigations in the United States have zoned in on Chris Anu. Why? The Red Dragons, which were directly under the control and influence of Chris Anu, and according to Paul Tasson, the colonial minister of La République du Cameroon, according to Field Marshal, in 2019, in October 1, 2019, in Lebialem, the video is out there. Field Marshal sent a special thank you message publicly to Paul Tasson as the person who created and is sponsoring the Red Dragons. That video is out there for all of you to watch and to see. My goal is just to state facts. Field Marshal Oliver Leke sent a public message October 1, 2019, thanking Paul Tasson, the colonial minister of La République du Cameroon, for creating the Red Dragons, for sponsoring the Red Dragons. So the Red Dragons, under the command of Chris Anu, they killed 2 chiefs in Lebialem. This is public information. Villages were burnt down in Lebialem. 65 secondary school children were kidnapped. The first act the first violations of international of human rights in Ambazonia took place under the watch of Chris Anu, when the delegate of social welfare was picked up by the Red Dragons under the command of Field Marshal. And according to public information, Chris Anu negotiated 50 million that was paid to Field Marshal, $50 million was paid to the Red Dragons. This is all public information. Amazonian liberation struggle, where such things were introduced. This is when the Chris Anu realized, so we can make a lot of money in this game. Now it wasn't a fight for the liberation of the Ambazonian people and to push the colonial authorities out and advance the cause for the Ambazonian people. The liberation has become a transaction. What followed after? What followed after? A few months later, teachers and some students were arrested or picked up in Nkwen. And then a week later, 82 students and 3 teachers, Cameroon got involved. And everything went downhill. Kidnapping for ransom became a thriving business in Ambazonia. The FBI has all of this information. They are going through everybody's Facebook. They are going through everybody's social media, both within Europe, within Canada, and within the United States. So everything everybody has done is online. All the noise, the command Chris Anu has given for 39 Ambazonian fighters to be killed, the information is out there. This is not ASU giving some information to anybody. I'm here to state some facts so that you know the game and why Chris Anu has abandoned the Ambazonian liberation struggle and is now doing only interviews. Why they have disbanded the Red Dragons and returned most of them that were Cameroon bees, gone back to where they came from. This is a game. So Chris Anu is currently under serious FBI investigations for human rights violations in Ambazonia. So I understand why most of you are very much interested with what's happening with Dr. Cho. There are two different things. Dr. Cho Lucas Ayaba, it's a legitimate political actor under an umbrella, an institution, an organization, and a defense force, which he is the commander-in-chief. Chris Anu has no group. He has resigned from the SACO IG, created his own IG. He has resigned from that IG and has washed his hands off Ambazonia. Now he's doing only interviews. That does not mean the things he did in the past have been forgotten by international law. So that's why over the last 2 years, the FBI has visited him many times. A couple of months ago, he went to Europe. On his way back, he was detained for 9 hours. All his computers, cell phones are still with the FBI. So it's very easy for people like Chris Anu to distract the Ambazonian people by talking about Dr. Cho Lucas Ayaba. Talking about Dr. Cho Lucas Ayaba, Dr. Cho Lucas Ayaba, the ADF, the ABF, the ADF. All of those things are to distract you from what is actually going on with him.
Would no longer sit. They will be crushed. This, what happened in Bui, should send a message to the ADF and the AGOVC that this interim government would no longer sit down to negotiate with you out there.
So it's also not easy on Chris Anu right now. You all remember Eric Tato? I've warned you Ambazonians. You want to be an activist? Do activism following international humanitarian laws and international law. Respect the domestic laws of the country you are in. This is not a game. This is not a show. This is about human lives. This is about the lives of our children, of our mothers, of our people, of our communities, of our country. It's not a game. But the Cameroon government used certain Ambazonians based on the flaws in their characters to do things that will end up haunting them. So today, Anu is under serious investigations. That is why Chris Anu cannot talk about forces on the ground. That's why Chris Anu cannot make comments about Ambazonian forces or about the right of self-defense and why the Ambazonian people must continuously arm themselves to defend themselves against the worst occupation regime that has existed in Africa. So, don't be manipulated psychologically by their loud sounding voice when they come out and all they want to do is to talk about how Cho Ayaba is a warlord, how Cho Ayaba has committed crimes against humanity. Dr. Cho Ayaba declared himself to be the commander-in-chief of Ambazonian forces. He's not hiding under some fake entity. He's a human rights defender, and he's a political leader. He's not hiding. He's the purest nationalist Ambazonians have ever had. And through him, Ambazonia will prevail. He turns every opportunity for the benefit of Ambazonia. Before he engaged as a leader for the struggle for freedom of the Ambazonian people, for the liberation of the Ambazonian people, of course, he understood the implications. Cho is ready to pay the price for the freedom of Ambazonia. Cristiano is not. And Cho is ready to defend Ambazonia, and is doing so, and has done so in the last 14 months under detention. While under detention, he had continued to provide quality, professional, and high-quality leadership on behalf of the Ambazonian people. He's still leading diplomacy. We know what's going on internationally. Most of you heard the speech from the Canadian Prime Minister in Davos. He told all of you, the international law prescribed, created, enacted by the West after the end of the Second World War is very selective. It only goes after the weak. The powerful are not touched. More than 80,000 have been slaughtered, murdered in Gaza. Entire towns, cities, leveled down. More than 200 journalists killed. Children slaughtered, bombed, leveled. Food is used as a weapon of war. Women raped, children raped, starved, denied access to international humanitarian aid, access to water, access to treatment. How many have been arrested? How many have been arrested? Is it not the same Canada, US, United Kingdom, Norway that is sending the money and the weapons for all these crimes to be committed? How many have been arrested? So, if the Cameroon government will pay $50 million to the leadership of Nigerian DSS to gain access for Sisseku and 10 other Ambazonian leaders to be abducted in Nigeria, transacted back to the Cameroon military intelligence, and then renditioned back to Cameroon, how much money then has the Cameroon government paid the intelligence officers of cripples? If the Cameroon government will pay up to $50 million to bribe and corrupt the leadership of Nigerian Secret Intelligence Services, the DSS, for the abduction, transaction, rendition of Sisseku Ayoktabe and 10 other Ambazonian leaders in order to orchestrate a decapitation strategy of the leadership, how much has the Cameroon government through underground channels pay certain officials within cripples. How much did the Cameroon government, through underground channels, pay the now former ambassador of the United States who orchestrated all of these schemes, or through contracts to certain friends and families of the ambassador for this whole scheme to be orchestrated? How much? Are you ready for freedom? Stop being a consumer of hate. How much did they pay? I refuse to collect their 50 million. I refuse to collect their 100 million. And I refuse to collect Mr. Bia 250 million CFA franc as bribe for them to use me as they are using Capo Daniel. Now you understand why some of them speak the way they do. You think they're fighting ASU? You think they're fighting Ayaba? You think they're fighting the egg of sea? No, they are fighting your future. They are not fighting me. They can't fight me. They don't have what it takes to fight me. They don't. Their goal is to make sure that I don't have the time to focus on providing the kind of education, intelligence, analysis, and leadership, and to serve the people. Their goal is to make all of us start to play this dirty politics where they will make comments and then I will spend my time to come and respond to them, and then they go make some other silly and foolish comment and I spend my time to come and respond to them. That's what they want us to be doing. We have refused to play that game, but we will respond aggressively, tactically, forcefully, fiercely, professionally when it's needed. And the one that the Cameroon government 2 years ago helped to rescue from Hong Kong, brought to Canada. For him, by being in Canada, then he can be able to compete with ASU. See, that's not what my life is about. I got involved because I wanted to serve. I got involved because I have something meaningful to contribute. I got involved because I saw gaps. And even till today, there are so many gaps in the liberation struggle. And I'm doing my best to fill in those gaps, provide leadership, provide analysis, provide sense of direction, create narratives, maintain a reputation, maintain focus, maintain cohesion. There are so many gaps. My goal is just to serve. So their goal is to make sure that, they write all sort of things and call our names so that we don't have the time to focus on helping the people to be free. This is the game. So I understand most of you go listen to these people and then you come back to me, you say, oh, this is what they have said. If you listen to them and you come back to me, oh, this is what they have said about you. You're transferring a virus. You go consume poison. You get yourself infected and now you want to spread it and transfer it to other people. Information is as dangerous as what you call poison. So if you continue to feed yourself with negative, destructive information, you are not doing harm. You're not helping the person that is spewing the information by watching him. You're doing harm to your cells. You're doing harm to your spirit. You're doing harm to your soul. You're doing harm to your nervous system. You're doing harm to your heart. How do you feel when you listen to such information? How do you feel? Does it feel good? Does it feel uplifting? Your body gives you signal as you're listening to that information. Hate is a poison. And that's why they look like that. It's a matter of time. Truth is a healing mechanism. I've been visited twice by the Canadian federal authorities who've had really good discussions. Really good discussions. They have a good understanding of what I do. I have a clean record, never committed a crime in this country. Since I came here, I've served. When I was in college, I go to high school and speak. For 1 year, I spoke to 25 high schools. Got to inspire and motivate kids. And then it became a passion. And then I turned it into a career. And then I became a coach. And then I became a leadership strategic advisor. And then I pursue strategic interventions. All to add value. And I'm very proud that the knowledge I've accumulated over the last 15 years has really helped me to be instrumental in shaping who we are today. So this is not a game. And I'm proud of who the Ambazonian people are. I'm proud of our courage, of our resilience. I understand these things sound complicated sometimes. They sound frustrating sometimes. It's not an easy journey without an effective leadership. But one thing is sure. Over the next few weeks, I will focus on providing detailed intelligence based on deep research that we've done to show all the Ambazonian people and the international community. Cameroon is gone. There is nothing left of Cameroon. Cameroon is gone. What is left is a skeleton. Cameroon is gone. They know it. Our liberation has decimated Cameroon. For the first time, something has challenged that state. Has not only challenged the state, but obliterated the core foundation of the state. Cameroon has been auctioned. The end of Mr. Biya is here. The transition is not going to be easy. And it's not going to be the kind of transition most of you are expecting. It's going to be an internal coup within the factions. I will be bringing information. I have everything about La République. Politically, financially, economically, diplomatically, I have everything. I have tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of intelligence on Cameroon. On a daily basis, I receive them. Because now we can ask questions and get the information. Just Cameroon is finished. Okay? Mr. Biya is no longer in charge of Cameroon. There is no authority, there is no official Cameroon authority in Ambazonia anymore. Just as there is infighting within Cameroon, within the factions, so too is infighting in Ambazonia. Certain elites are fighting certain colonial administrators for strategic control of whatever is left of the occupation system. In conclusion, Agbobala, just like others, is not a human rights activist. Is a human rights lawyer? Yes. It's all a transaction. A transaction in 2016 with the Cameroon state. Then in 2018, he thought Mr. Biya and Diongute will make him a minister. They didn't. When Kamto emerged, he thought he could align with Kamto and then gain access so that he will become an ally of Kamto, and through that, Kamto can use him to gain access to the Ambazonian people and to influence the Ambazonian people to embrace Kamto. He tried that. What happened? Mr. Biya snatched the results. He went into hiding for a few months and then re-emerged. Reintegrated within the system, profited within the system. And over the last 6 years, he had become very popular through the Ambazonian liberation struggle, tried to position himself as a moderate. Mr. Biya and Diongute, they still don't trust him. They appointed him as a professor for 3 months, and he got sacked. So he felt the system has disgraced him because he's the one tried to hold what he believed to be Ambazonians from leaving Cameroon. So he thinks he has a lot of power. And he thinks he should be rewarded. By Mr. Biya appointing him the Minister of Justice. That did not happen. The election, the 2025, the October 12, 2025 presidential election, he saw that as an opportunity. So he betrayed Diongute, betrayed Mr. Biya, abandoned Diongute, abandoned Atanganji, abandoned all the CPDM elites that have kept him alive, kept him afloat, opened doors for him. He abandoned them and embraced Issa Chiroma. What was he thinking? That Chiroma has a magical cure to Mr. Biya? Went out, insulted Mr. Biya, insulted the system. And when the elections were rigged, well, now he had to think twice. I've insulted the king, called Mr. Biya. I've insulted Atanganji Paul. I've insulted the Constitutional Court. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? Oh, shit. These guys may come after me. 2 months later, and he said Ekane was arrested and then murdered. That sent a shock wave. Overnight, Bala escaped. And within a few weeks, emerged in Canada. Went around, videos, games, to show that he's safe. he started renegotiating safe return to Cameroon. And they told him, things are not safe. You were very close to Chiroma, and you made some statements that do not sit very well with the king. You accused Mr. Biya of electoral genocide, and you said really harsh things against Atanganji Paul and against the system. So I think, don't come back. They warned him. Then came AFCON. Flew to Morocco, carrying the Cameroon flag, being the chairperson, cheering the Lions. All of those things were part of the game to beg for forgiveness, to ask for forgiveness. Biya does not like Cameroon. I met him in 2020. I met him 2019? I think I met either 2019 or 2021. We met in Toronto when CDN organized the Southern Cameroon's leadership conference. We met. Agbo Bala does not like the Cameroon state. It's all a transaction. It's all for the fame and for the money. Look, I'm not after people pursuing their aspirations, okay? But look, you have to understand the psychological games. That's all I'm telling you, all right? I have my own dreams, my own goals, and my own aspirations. But I'm not doing it on the blood of people, okay? All right? Just know that. So I'm not after people going to fulfill their own, whatever values they hold. That's totally up to them, all right? We all have different values, okay? But it's a game. You need to understand the game. So he was out there. He was in Morocco, carrying the Cameroon flag, singing, posting. All of those things was, please forgive me. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. A lot of letters, a lot of calls were sent to all elites to ask for forgiveness. And then they told him, okay, the Lions have lost. Come home, let's talk. Bala went back to Cameroon and immediately went back to the king and asked for forgiveness to Diongote. And the message was passed to the king. Said, listen, I will promote policies of the regime. And immediately came out and started talking about Mr. Biya policy of localized dialogue, community dialogue, as the only way to solve the conflict. To bring the traditional chiefs and community leaders, that's the way to resolve this conflict. That's a policy of Mr. Biya. Grand National Dialogue failed, special status with which Bala championed. What has happened to special status that now Bala is talking about Mr. Biya community dialogue? And he wants to be the architect of that community dialogue. So this is the whole game. This is why he's pushing out this community dialogue and pushing Mr. Biya policy of multilateralism. This is the whole game that he wants to help to design the community dialogue. So this is the transaction. It is entrance to the system. I want to play a role. Make me something. Bala, you're already something. You don't have to be part of the bloodthirsty, murderous regime for you to become something. You're already something, Bala. You cannot fix that system. I don't care who you think you are. You cannot redeem such an entrenched system. You can't. The system must be replaced. You're better off. You're receiving a lot of funding from international organizations and governments. Why do you want to go get yourself involved? Oh, now you have to go shake hands, with top officials of the military, and then take pictures and put them on Facebook. So that you can be seen as being up there. See, this is the illusion of influence. I don't have to, look, I don't need to be the spokesperson of AGOVC for me to be influential. My caring, my compassion, my empathy, just speaking the truth and mobilizing and inspiring the people, sometimes it's even more effective than for you to be associated. Institutions are powerful, but do it in a way that it's effective. Don't do it in a way that it degrades who you are. Go look at Bala's Facebook post when he talked about colonial policies. Only very few people are engaged. Go look at. So that's a signal, Bala. But when you do the right thing, when you're speaking truth, and you're calling for the international community, not for a facade, but to address the root causes of the conflict that put you to jail. Your life was rescued by the Ambazonian people. They raised money for you. They fed you. They cared for you. They prayed for you. Don't abuse that trust, Bala. Don't abuse that trust. There are ways to be famous authentically. There are ways people can love you because of your truth and because of your character. Look at all the elites in Ambazonia. There are people who don't like them. Why do you want to be something that people despise? Why do you want to be something that's against human development? Why do you want to be something that is against human dignity? It's beyond human understanding. But it's your life and it's your choice. Here is one thing you need to know. The games you are being directed to play, I've advised the AGOVC, you are part of the intelligence network of the Cameroon government. The AGOVC should continue to talk to you. I'm not against it, but it's all part of intelligence gathering. Okay? I'm just saying, I have my own opinion. Because I have so much deep information about a lot of things. I'm not saying they should not engage. They should engage you, but they should understand who you are. Just being honest. People may not like it, but I'm just being honest. We've had numerous conversations, especially when we met in Toronto. I respect your right to pursue your own aspirations, your own hopes, your own dreams. You have your own values, and those are the things guiding you. That this is about the lives of the Ambazonian people. I should tread carefully. Lives are at stake. Millions of lives. Future of children is at stake. But let me tell you one thing. The Bia's regime has come to an end. It's over for Mr. Bia. Madame Chantal, the Ngongo, and other factions are now in charge. Mr. Bia has become a boy within the presidency. So tread very carefully, my friend. Thank you very much, ACN, for giving us the opportunity to talk to our people today. Thank you.
I want you to picture the scene for a moment. It's January 2nd, 2026. You are standing on the quayside at the port of Douala Bonaberi.
Which is, I mean, it's the economic lung of Cameroon. Everything flows through there.
Everything. It's the absolute heartbeat of the nation's commerce.
Yeah.
And you can feel it in the air. It's hot. It's humid. It's the dry season, technically. But this is Douala, so the air is just heavy. It sticks to your skin.
And normally that place is just a symphony of chaos, right?
Exactly. Organized chaos. You've got cranes swinging these massive containers overhead, trucks idling in lines that stretch for miles, it seems. It's a machine that never, ever sleeps.
And it's a machine that generates a staggering amount of cash. If you control the port, you really do control the flow of the entire country's economy.
That's the key. But on this specific morning, something's off. The rhythm's broken. You walk over to the scanning terminal.
Choke point.
The choke point, exactly. This is where every single container gets x-rayed for customs. It's how the state is supposed to make its money.
Yeah.
And you see the equipment from SGS, the Swiss multinational, just sitting there.
Dark.
Silent.
Dark.
The operators are just standing around, hands in their pockets, looking completely baffled.
And we should be clear, SGS isn't some minor player. They are the absolute gold standard for this kind of work globally. Their name on a contract is supposed to be a guarantee of legitimacy.
They've had this contract for decades, in fact. Their presence is what tells the world, yes, we are collecting our taxes properly. But today, nothing.
And right next to their silent machine.
Right next to them, literally just a few meters away, a whole new set of machines is humming to life. Brand new staff, different uniforms, and a logo for a company that honestly nobody had ever really heard of until a few weeks prior. Transatlantic DSA.
Which, let's be honest, that sounds like a shell company name from a bad spy novel.
It really does. But here's the part that makes this a deep dive. This isn't just a contract dispute.
Yeah.
4 days before this scene, on December 29th, 2025, the finance minister of Cameroon, a man named Louis-Paul Mortazi, sent an absolutely furious directive. He explicitly ordered the port director not to switch those new machines on. He said, in no uncertain terms, the SGS contract is valid until 2032. He cited the law. He cited the budget. He threw the full weight of his office at this.
And Mortazi is a heavyweight. We have to understand that. He's not just some bureaucrat. He is the president's nephew.
Right.
In the power structure of Cameroon, when the president's own nephew, who is also the finance minister, gives a direct order about finance that is supposed to be the word of God, it's supposed to be final.
And yet on January 2nd, the transatlantic machines were running. The port director, a guy named Cyrus Ngo, simply ignored him.
Ghosted him.
Completely. And it gets worse. Within weeks, the military chief of staff himself sends a letter, a formal letter, telling this massive Swiss company to pack up their things and leave definitively.
It's just a stunning moment. You have a mid-level bureaucrat, the port director, openly defying one of the most powerful men in the country, a member of the first family, and the military steps in to back the bureaucrat.
It shouldn't happen.
That hierarchy is completely inverted. It makes no sense. Unless there's another power structure at play that we can't see on the surface.
And when I first read the source material for today, this incredible report by Joaquim Ferrara, it's titled Seized Ports, Stolen Country, my first thought was exactly that. Okay, this is a boring contract dispute, a turf war over customs fees.
Sure, just another day of graft in a resource-rich nation. That's the easy explanation.
But Ferrara's thesis is so much darker. He argues that what happened at that port, it wasn't just corruption, it was a smoking gun.
The tip of the iceberg?
It was the most visible sign of a silent coup that has, for all intents and purposes, already taken place in Yaoundé.
And that's really the mission for this deep dive, isn't it? We need to unpack this idea of a silent coup. Because, when we talk about coups in West or Central Africa, and we've seen a lot of them lately, we have a very specific image in mind.
Oh, yeah. Guys in fatigues, seizing the national television station.
Martial music playing on a loop, borders closing, a general reading a statement on TV, tanks in the street.
Breaking news banners flashing across every screen in the world.
Exactly. But the argument here, and it's a compelling one, is that the most effective coup of the 22nd century doesn't need a single tank.
It just needs a pen.
It just needs a pen. And a delegation of signature. And it can happen while the president, the actual head of state, is technically still in office, maybe even sleeping soundly in a luxury hotel suite thousands of miles away.
And that president, Paul Biya, is 92 years old.
92, the oldest head of state on the planet. He's been in power since 1982.
44 years. I mean, it's hard to even comprehend that kind of time frame. I was looking at the flight logs mentioned in the research. He spends months, literally months at a time, at the Intercontinental Hotel in Geneva.
Racking up bills that would make your eyes water. The entourage costs are something like $65 million over the years. It's staggering. But the key isn't the cost, it's the absence.
He's just not.
He's physically frail, sources say he's mentally distant. And get this, he hasn't held a proper cabinet meeting where he actually sits down with all his ministers around a table in over a decade.
Wait, back. A decade? Did you say 10 years?
10 years, a full decade without a formal cabinet meeting. So you have this immense vacuum at the very top. The pilot is asleep in the cockpit.
And the story of this deep dive then is about who rushed in to grab the controls.
Exactly. It's a story about two warring factions. On one side, you have what you could call the old guard, the blood relatives of the president.
Yeah.
They're represented by that finance minister, Mossadegh, the one who got so publicly humiliated at the port.
Okay, so that's faction one. And on the other side?
The wife and the secretary. First Lady Chantal Biya and the Secretary General of the Presidency, Ferdinand Ngonigo.
This is the alliance that the article calls the partnership.
And they are not just winning this war for succession. They're stripping the country down for parts before the president has even taken his last breath.
And the stakes, I mean, they're enormous. We're talking about 15 tons of missing gold. We're talking about journalists being abducted, tortured, and mutilated. We are talking about a family feud that is literally tearing a nation apart at the seams.
It is absolutely Shakespearean. It really is. You have the aging, absent king. You have the ambitious, plotting stepmother, the disinherited prince. It hits every single beat of a classic tragedy.
It really does. And to understand the politics, to understand why a port was seized, we actually have to start there. We have to start with the family tree.
You can't understand the balance sheet until you understand the dinner table dynamics at the presidential palace. It's all connected.
All right, so let's map it out for everyone. At the center of this universe, you have Paul Biya. He's the sun around which everything is supposed to orbit.
But he's a fading sun, a distant one.
Exactly. Now, before he married his current wife, Chantal, Paul Biya had a first wife, Jane Irene. And by all accounts, she was a very different kind of figure.
Much more low-key, very respected, not nearly as flamboyant as Chantal. She passed away back in 1992. But together, she and Paul Biya had a son.
Franck Biya.
Franck Biya, born in 1971, so he's in his 50s now. And in any traditional, dynastic political system, and we see them all over Africa, think of the Bongos in Gabon or the Ayadimas in Togo, the son succeeds the father.
It's the expected path. It's the natural order of things.
Right. And for a very long time, that was the assumption in Cameroon. Franck keeps a relatively low profile. He's a businessman. But the quiet understanding was always when the old man goes, Franck is the one who steps in.
But the source material, this report from Ferrara, it highlights something fascinating and, frankly, kind of tragic about Franck's situation now. He isn't just being sidelined.
No, it's more than that. He's being systematically erased.
So what does that look like in practice? I mean, he's still the president's son, right? He still has the name, the bloodline.
He has the name, but he doesn't have the access. And in a court like this, access is everything. The report mentions that Franck Biya, a grown man, the president's firstborn son, cannot simply walk into the presidential palace and see his own father.
He has to make an appointment with, a secretary?
It is so much worse than that. He has to get permission from his stepmother.
From Chantal Biya.
Yes. She controls the door. She is the ultimate gatekeeper. If she decides she doesn't want Franck in the room with his father, then Franck is not getting in that room. End of story.
That's an unbelievable amount of leverage. You're not just politically isolating him. You are physically cutting off the air from the very source of his legitimacy.
And it goes beyond just physical access. It's about systematically destroying his network. Let's go back to Louis Paul Mothez, the finance minister.
The guy who lost the fight over the port contract.
He's not just a minister. He's Franck Biya's cousin. He represents that first family lineage, the blood relatives, by humiliating Motaz so publicly, by having a lower-ranking official like the port director completely ignore his direct legal orders. The Chantal faction is sending a brutal message to the entire state bureaucracy.
And that message is what?
Don't bet on the prince. It's saying Frank's protection means nothing. His allies are weak and can be crushed. The real power is with us. They're starving him of oxygen.
They are completely isolating him. Which brings us then to the new family, to Chantal Biya. She marries the president in 1994.
And she brings a completely different energy to the palace. She's flamboyant, famous for that iconic, towering red hair, the high fashion, a global socialite. But behind the scenes, politically, she is absolutely ruthless.
Now, here's the twist that I found so interesting. Usually in these situations, you'd expect a first lady to be maneuvering for her own biological children with the president to take over.
Right, the natural instinct. And she does have 2 kids with Paul Biya. There's a son, Paul Jr., and a daughter, Brenda.
Okay, so why aren't they the ones being positioned?
Well, from what the report suggests, they aren't seen as serious political contenders. They're more like influential socialites. You see them on Instagram, living lavish lifestyles, but they don't seem to have the interest or the grit for the grinding gears of statecraft. They're not operators.
So Chantal isn't pushing them for the throne.
No, she's pushing her sons from a previous relationship.
From before she even met the president.
Correct. Before she married Biya, she was a single mother to twin boys, Frank Hertz and Patrick Hertz.
Wait, hold on. So let me get this straight. These 2 guys, the Hertz twins, they have 0 biological relation to President Paul Biya.
None whatsoever. 0 Biya blood. They're the stepsons. And yet, if you look at who is actually winning the massive state infrastructure contracts, who is showing up in Dubai to negotiate billion-dollar oil deals, it's not Frank Biya, it is Frank Hertz.
Wow. That is incredibly bold. I mean, historically, in any monarchy or dynasty, favoring the stepchild over the blood heir is a recipe for civil war. It cuts against every single tradition.
The article calls it a primal replacement, and that's exactly what it is. This isn't just about securing a comfortable future for her kids. It's about swapping out the entire lineage of the state, replacing the Biya bloodline with her own.
And they're clever about how they do it. The branding.
The branding is key. The report notes that Frank Hertz very often introduces himself, or is referred to in business circles, as Frank Hertz Biya.
He just tacks the name on the end, the compound name.
Exactly. It anchors him to the power. It creates legitimacy out of thin air. If you're a foreign investor in a boardroom in Zurich or Dubai, and a guy walks in introduced as Mr. Biya, you're not going to ask for a DNA test.
No, you just assume he speaks for the president. It opens doors.
It opens doors that lead directly to bank vaults, so now the picture is clear. We have the frozen heir, Frank Biya, locked outside the palace gates. And we have the Hertz boys, the stepsons, inside counting the cash.
But Chantal, for all her influence, she can't run the government by herself. She's the first lady, she's the gatekeeper, but she needs a mechanic. She needs someone who actually knows how to pull the levers of the state machinery.
And that is where we meet the architect, Ferdinand Nungo Nungo.
The man they call the vice god.
A nickname he apparently quite enjoys. And if you look at his power, it's not an exaggeration.
I really want to drill down on this guy, because on paper, his title is Secretary General of the Presidency. In a U.S. context, that sounds like a chief of staff. You know, important, definitely, but not the guy with his finger on the button. Why is Nungo so uniquely powerful?
It all comes down to a single piece of paper. A decree signed in February 2019. This document is the absolute keystone of the entire silent coup.
Okay, what did it say?
It granted Ferdinand Nungo a permanent delegation of signature.
Delegation of signature. Break that down for us. Legally, what does that actually allow him to do?
In most governments, power is delegated for specific tasks or limited times. You know, you can sign for this budget item, or you can sign in my name this week while I'm at a conference. This decree was a blank check.
A permanent blank check.
Permanent. It allows Nungo to sign any document as if he were the president.
So if he signs a decree firing a minister.
Legally, it's as if Paul Biya signed it himself. If he authorizes a payment of $100 million from the Treasury, it's Paul Biya's authorization.
And because the actual president is absentee?
Because he's in Geneva or resting or just unavailable, Nungo becomes the de facto head of state. He is the government. The ministers, they don't really report to the prime minister anymore. They report to Nungo because he's the one who holds the president's pen.
That explains everything about the port crisis. That's why the prime minister was totally ignored.
Absolutely. The prime minister, a man named Dian Nungut, is technically the head of government, but in this new reality, he's a figurehead. If the port director, Cyrus Ngo, knows that he has the backing of Ngo, he can laugh in the prime minister's face, and he basically did.
So what's the bond between Ngo and Chantal? Is it just a marriage of convenience?
It's deeper than that. It's tribal and it's geographic. Ngo is from a town called Nanga Iboko.
And that's significant because...
It's Chantal Bia's hometown. It's in the Upper Sanaga region.
So they're from the same place, the home team.
In Cameroonian politics, that kind of bond is immensely powerful. The report describes their dynamic perfectly. Chantal is the supreme arbiter. She decides who is in the inner circle and who is out. Ngo is the operations manager. He's the one who executes her will through the state apparatus.
And I feel like there's a but coming. He's not just a loyal servant doing her bidding.
Oh, not at all. He has his own ambitions. He is voracious. He's not just holding the throne for Chantal's sons to inherit. He is building his own parallel empire, his own war chest.
And we have evidence of that.
The investigation uncovered a trail of assets. Properties in France, in Belgium, in the U.S. He tried to seize direct control of the national oil company, SNH, just this year. And the methodology of how he acquires this wealth, how he consolidates his power. Well, that leads us directly into the dark heart of this story.
Because when you start stealing on this industrial scale, eventually people start asking questions.
And when people ask the wrong questions in Yerde,
They tend to disappear.
Precisely. Which brings us to Section 3, the blood cost. We have to talk about Martinez Zogo.
This is where the story shifts from, a political thriller into something much, much darker. A horror movie.
It really is. Martinez Zogo was a radio host. His show was called Embouteillage, which means gridlock, and that's what he did. He created gridlock. He was a firebrand. He would get on the air and he would just shout. He named names. He didn't care who he offended. He was fearless.
And in January 2023, he had a very specific target in his sights.
He was going after a man named Jean-Pierre Amugu Balinga. Balinga is a media mogul, very rich, very flashy, owns TV stations, newspapers, but politically he was a key ally of the finance minister, Motaz.
So he was an ally of Franck Bia's cousin, part of the old guard.
Exactly. Zogo was attacking the faction that opposes Ngo. He was on the radio claiming he had government documents, dossier, showing suspicious payments of around $79 million from the Treasury to Balinga. He was doing major damage to the Motaz camp.
So logically, you would think the danger to Zogo would come from the people he was exposing.
Right. If I'm on the radio calling you a thief, I expect you to come after me.
But the reality in Cameroon is like 4D chess. It's never that simple.
Never. Zogo was abducted from outside a police station on January 17th, 2023. His body was found 5 days later, dumped on the outskirts of the city, and the state of the body. It sent a message that went far beyond just shut up.
The details in the source material are absolutely gruesome on this.
He was systematically tortured, his fingers were severed, his tongue was mutilated, his genitals were destroyed. It was ritualistic. It was a level of brutality designed to send a wave of pure terror through the entire media class.
And the investigation that followed. Who did they arrest?
This is the crucial pivot. This is where the real goal becomes clear. The investigation, of course, swept up Balinga, the media mogul Zogo was exposing, but it also swept up a man named Leopold Maxime Iko.
Iko. Who is he?
Rep of the CIA of Cameroon.
Okay, so the country's top spy chief gets arrested for the murder of a journalist. That's a huge story.
It's a massive story, but here's a critical insight from the source material, from sources inside the security services. They describe Iko as the only man who knows Ngo's plans and can stop him.
Oh.
Iko was Ngo's primary rival within the deep state. He had his own network, his own power base. He was a check on the Secretary General's ambition.
So by pinning the Zogo murder on Balinga and the intelligence service,
the investigation effectively decapitated the one state agency that could pose a genuine threat to the vice god.
So it doesn't even matter who actually ordered the hit on Zogo. Yep. You just have to look at the result. The result was that Ngo's biggest institutional rival was thrown in a maximum security prison.
Precisely. And there's another layer to this. Just before Zogo's murder, there was a massive scandal brewing called COVIDgate. Millions and millions of dollars of COVID relief funds had been embezzled, and an arrest warrant was actually issued for Ferdinand Ngongo in October 2022.
An arrest warrant for the vice god himself.
A legitimate arrest warrant. But in the chaos and the national horror that followed Zogo's brutal murder, and with the intelligence chief Iko suddenly arrested and disgraced, all talk of that warrant just vanished.
It disappeared.
The opposition leader, a woman named Kawala, she put it perfectly, she said it looked as if one faction wanted to use Zogo's murder to destroy a different faction.
It's a purge. It's a classic Stalinist purge disguised as a murder investigation. You use a crime as a pretext to eliminate your political enemies.
And it worked flawlessly. The warrant evaporated. Ungo is still in his office, more powerful than ever. Iko is still in jail. And the journalists...
He got the message.
Loud and clear. Another one, Jean-Jacques Olabere, was shot dead just a few weeks after Zogo. He had gone on television the night before his death and basically predicted that he would be next.
It creates an atmosphere of absolute terror. If they can touch the head of intelligence, if they can butcher a famous radio host in that manner, then nobody is safe.
And that silence is profitable. Because while the entire country is terrified, looking over their shoulder for the black vans, the extraction machine, the business end of this silent coup, is shifting into its highest gear.
Okay, so let's talk about that machine. We've covered the power politics and the violence. Now we need to follow the money. Section 4, the extraction machine. And we're right back to the Hertz boys.
Frank Hertz, the ambitious stepson.
I want to understand the mechanics of this. He's not a government official. He's a private citizen. How does a guy like that end up with these colossal state contracts?
He went from being a guy with an MBA in logistics to being one of the country's biggest industrial tycoons, seemingly overnight. His company is called H-Log, or H Logistics. And the way it works is just breathtakingly simple. The source describes the mechanism as a whisper in the ear.
A whisper.
A whisper from his mother, Chantal, to her operations manager, the Ngo. My son is interested in this. The Ngo, using that delegated signature authority, picks up the phone and calls a guy like Cyrus Ngo at the port of Douala. And suddenly, HLOG has the contract.
No bidding process, no competition, no tenders.
None. Just a whisper and a signature. And these are not small contracts. We are not talking about supplying paper clips to the government.
No, this is the backbone of the country's infrastructure.
HLOG got the contract to transport the 85-ton transformers for the national electric grid.
85 tons. You need incredibly specialized equipment for that. Heavy haulers, engineering teams, permits. Did HLRG even own a truck that could do that?
It doesn't matter. They had the contract. That's the only thing that matters. They likely subcontracted the actual heavy lifting to a real company and skimmed a fortune off the top. They handled the logistics for the Nautical hydroelectric dam.
That's the biggest infrastructure project in Cameroon's history.
The biggest. They built the stadiums for the African Cup of Nations. And, as the source points out, they even got their own private fiefdom at the port.
A private terminal.
5,000 square meters at the port of Douala, allocated for their private operations. It's like having your own sovereign territory inside the country's main gateway. You can bring things in, you can take things out, without the usual prying eyes of customs.
There's a detail in the article about a theft at his house that, as I said before, just blew my mind. It feels like a scene straight out of a show like Narcos.
The Tell, that's what it is. In 2024, it was reported that 8 billion FCFA was stolen from Frank Hertz's residence.
8 billion. Now, what is that in U.S. dollars?
It's about 13 million U.S. dollars.
13 million in cash stolen from his house.
In cash.
Who keeps $13 million in cash lying around their house?
People who are operating in a parallel economy, people who cannot put that money into the formal banking system because it would trigger every anti-money laundering alarm on the planet. Mm-hmm. If you walk into a bank with $13 million in a suitcase, questions get asked.
So you keep it in the basement. It's a staggering amount of liquidity.
It just shows you the sheer scale of the cash flow here. This isn't just skimming a bit off the top. This is a fire hose of public money being diverted directly to the Hertz family.
And it isn't just logistics and construction. It's oil, too.
The SNH, the National Oil Company. This is the crown jewel of the Cameroonian state. We mentioned earlier that Ngo tried to take it over directly by firing its longtime head and failed. But even without that total takeover, they are deeply embedded in its operations.
Oh, what's the entry point?
Through the Wives Network. It's fascinating. The wife of the powerful SNH head, a woman named Natalie Mudiki, is a very close ally of Chantal Biya through an organization called SERAC.
What's that?
It's the First Lady's charitable foundation, but in reality it functions as a sort of social and political gatekeeper for the elite women of the regime. And Natalie Mudiki runs a key subsidiary of the oil company called Seastar.
Star.
It's described as an offshore shell structure. It runs these massive petroleum projects, often without the approval or even the knowledge of the main SNH board. It's a black box. And guess who showed up at a Seastar strategy meeting in Dubai in June 2024?
Let me guess. Frank Hertz.
Frank Hertz Biya, as he was likely introduced, sitting in on high-level oil planning meetings, shaping the future of the nation's most valuable resource despite holding no official government role whatsoever.
He's just the son.
The stepson. It's a complete capture of the state. You have the stepson managing the oil, the secretary general managing the signatures, and the first lady managing the access to the president. It's a perfect closed loop.
And if you think the oil deals and the port contracts are bad, we have to talk about the gold. This is Section 5, and honestly, this part feels less like corruption and more like a heist movie on a national scale.
The gold drain. It is arguably the most blatant and quantifiable looting of the state.
So just walk me through the numbers again, because the discrepancy that the report lays out it's not just a rounding error. It's insane.
It's not a discrepancy, it's a chasm. So in the year 2023, the government of Cameroon officially declared that it exported a grand total of 22.3 kilograms of gold.
22 kilograms. I mean, I could fit that in a couple of sturdy gym bags. For an entire country with known gold deposits, that is nothing.
It's functionally zero. But international trade data compiled by bodies that track global imports shows that the rest of the world, primarily the UAE, so Dubai imported 15.2 tons of gold from Cameroon in that same year.
Wait. Say that again. 22 kilograms declared versus 15 tons imported. 15,000 kilograms.
Correct. The math is simple. Roughly 15 tons of gold vanished. It was mined in Cameroon, put on planes, and flown to Dubai without ever passing through the state treasury.
The lost revenue from that must be astronomical.
Hundreds of millions of dollars a year. That's money that should be building schools, paving roads, funding hospitals. Instead, it's funding a shadow state and lining pockets in Yaoundé and Dubai.
So who is the magician? Who makes 15 tons of gold disappear into thin air every year?
All roads, according to the investigation, lead to one man, Oswald Babok.
And who is he?
His official title is Deputy Director of the Civil Cabinet at the Presidency, but his real unofficial job title should probably be Chantal Biya's fixer. He manages her private affairs.
And where's he from? Let me guess.
He is from a town called Dimako, that's in the east region of Cameroon.
Right where the gold is.
It is the absolute heart of the gold belt, and not coincidentally, it's the same village where Chantal's mother is from. So there is a deep ancestral village-level connection there.
Okay, so how does the Babok operation actually work? Is he running the mines himself?
It's a family business. His daughter, a woman named Indira Baboke, holds 3 industrial mining permits in the region. Now, legally, these permits are strictly for Cameroonian nationals, but she doesn't do the mining. She leases them out to Chinese mining companies.
So the Chinese operators bring in the heavy machinery, the expertise.
They strip the land, they extract the gold on an industrial scale, and they pay a rent directly to the Babo family. Then the gold flows out of the country through intermediaries, bypassing all official channels.
And the final destination is always Dubai.
Always Dubai. The report found that Babok owns multiple properties there. He even has his son enrolled in a football academy in Dubai. It is the financial hub and the safe haven for the entire operation.
And looking at his assets back in Cameroon, he's not exactly hiding his wealth. He's not keeping it in cash under the mattress like Frank Hertz.
Not at all. He owns a fuel import company called Josedalo Petroleum. He owns construction companies, water and paper supply companies. He owns restaurants built on land belonging to Chantal's family. His real estate portfolio in Yaoundé alone is valued at over 3 billion FCFA.
For a civil servant.
A civil servant whose official salary is probably a few $1,000s a month. It doesn't add up.
And the rumor is that the plan is for him to go even higher.
The chatter in Yaoundé is that Ngo wants to install Babok as the next head of the SNH, the National Oil Company.
Oh, wow.
Imagine that. The man who runs the off-the-books gold empire taking control of the official national oil checkbook. It would be the final piece of the puzzle, total capture.
Every single major resource ports, oil and gold, would be consolidated under this one faction.
And that brings us full circle right back to where we started this whole conversation. The port of Douala, that mystery company, Transatlantic DSA.
Right, the company that kicked out the Swiss giant.
We know now that the CEO is just a front man. But the mechanism of the takeover, even after they were exposed, is fascinating. After the prime minister tried and failed to stop it, the port director, Cyrus Ngo, who is firmly in this no-go alliance, just ignored him.
Blew him off completely.
Completely. And then he sends a letter to the Swiss company, SGS, the one he just kicked out, and says, hey, why don't you come back? But there's a condition. You have to collaborate with Transatlantic.
So come back, teach these new guys how to do the job, lend us your international credibility, but we keep the contract and the money.
Exactly. It's a forced partnership. It's a way to legitimize the theft. To the outside world, to the World Bank, it looks like a standard business deal. But the revenue stream, the control, is locked in for Transatlantic until the year 2051.
2051. That's more than a generation away.
And that's the entire point. Which leads us to the final section, the end game. Because Paul Biela is 92 years old. He's not going to be around in 2051. He might not be around in 2027.
So what happens the day he dies?
Yeah.
What does the Constitution say? What's the official protocol?
The Constitution is very clear. The President of the Senate takes over as interim leader and has a short period to organize new elections.
Okay, that sounds simple enough. A clear line of succession.
Except the President of the Senate, a man named Marcel Nye Njifenji, is 88 years old.
Oh, no.
And his health is reportedly just as precarious as President Bia's. He is constantly being medevaced to Europe for emergency treatment. So you have a very real scenario where the president dies and the man designated to succeed him is in a coma in a Parisian hospital.
A constitutional void.
A total power vacuum. And we know that nature, especially political nature, abhors a vacuum. This is the moment where the risk of open, violent conflict just explodes.
And the military. Where do they fall in all this? Because at the end of the day, in these situations, the guys with the guns usually decide the winner.
The security apparatus is split, but the Chantal and Ngo faction has been very busy consolidating its power. The chief of staff of the military, General Mugo Emmanuel,
Let me guess.
he's the one who signed the official order kicking SGS out of the port. That tells you everything you need to know about his allegiance. He's aligned with Ngo.
So they have the chief of staff. That's huge.
Meanwhile, the historical power base, the head of presidential security, General Ivo Yenwo, he's been weakened and marginalized by the fallout from the Zogo murder scandal. So the chessboard is definitely tilted in favor of the partnership.
So if the president passes away tomorrow, Ngo just steps in and declares himself in charge.
That's the silent coup thesis. The argument is that they don't even need to do that. They don't need to stage a dramatic, violent overthrow. In a way, they've already captured the state. The war is already won.
Because they have the contracts.
Because they have the contracts. Let's just play out the scenario. Let's say, against all odds, Frank Bia, the son, somehow manages to rally support. Maybe he gets the sympathy vote from the people. Maybe he finds a faction of the military loyal to his father's memory, and he becomes president. What does he actually inherit?
He inherits an empty building. The port contract is signed away until 2051.
The oil revenue is being diverted through that Sea Star Shell company, controlled by Chantal's allies. The gold is flowing to Dubai through Babok's network. The intelligence service has been purged of his potential allies and is in disarray.
He would be the president of an empty shell. A king with no treasury.
He would sit in the palace, but he wouldn't have the money to pay the army. The Chantal Ngo partnership has already seized the country's future cash flow. The coup has already happened. We're all just waiting for the official announcement of the previous leader's death.
It is just devastating when you lay it all out like that. The family betrayal, the bureaucratic warfare, the literal torture and murder of journalists. It paints a picture of a nation that has been hollowed out from the inside.
And what's so tragic is the international silence. That's something the article really touches on in its conclusion.
Yeah. Where's France in all this? Where's the United States? Cameroon is supposed to be a key partner in the fight against terrorism in the region. You would think they would care deeply about this level of instability.
They're nowhere to be found. France is looking the other way. The U.S. seems disengaged. The African Union is completely silent. The source mentions the last election in 2025. Paul Biya won, again, giving him a mandate to serve until he's 98. It was widely documented as fraudulent.
98 years old. It sounds like a joke from a satirical novel.
It's an absolute farce. But the international community quietly accepts it because they prioritize a false sense of stability. But we have to ask ourselves, is this stability? A 15-ton gold heist every year, a government run by a signature stamp from an unelected official.
It's stability for the Hertz family. It's stability for Ferdinand Ngo. But for the 28 million people of Cameroon, it's systemic theft.
It's the systematic extraction of a nation's wealth on a scale that is hard to fathom by a machine that is designed to outlive the people who built it.
So let's just recap the key players one last time before we go. The web, as the article calls it.
At the center, you have the partnership. First Lady Chantal Biya and Secretary General Ferdinand Ngo, the Supreme Arbiter and the Operations Manager.
Then you have the beneficiaries, the Hertz boys, Franck and Patrick. The stepsons getting fabulously wealthy on contracts they didn't earn, branded with a powerful name that isn't biologically theirs.
Then come the enforcers, a guy like Oswald Baboker running the gold in Chantal's private affairs, a guy like Cyrus Ngo in the port locking down the customs revenue.
And finally you have the victims.
Franck Biya, the son frozen out of his father's life and his own inheritance, Martinez Zogo and the other journalists who were silenced in the most brutal way imaginable, and ultimately, the entire nation of Cameroon.
It's a lot to process. It really does make you rethink what a coup d'etat actually looks like in the 21st century.
And that's the provocative thought I think we should leave everyone with. We're conditioned by history and by Hollywood to think of coups as these very dramatic, kinetic events. We look for the explosion.
Right. The breaking news alert. The smoke rising over the presidential palace.
But maybe the most effective, most insidious coup is the one you never see on CNN. It's the one that's signed in a quiet contract meeting in Dubai while the president sleeps in a 5-star hotel in Geneva. It's the one where the laws and decrees are changed one signature at a time until the democracy is just a hollow costume for a criminal enterprise.
And by the time anyone realizes what's happened, the wealth of the nation is already signed away in contracts that last until 2051.
Exactly. The tanks can stay in the barracks. The lawyers and the accountants have already won the war.